Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Monday, May 27th, 2024. It has been 11 days since we have started reading, with 44 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 584 pages left to go and are 7% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 4 of Wake, an experiment that has no true meaning, purpose or structure, but which fulfills a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, joined as ever by the bravest man in podcasting, TJ Young. Spring's finally here, TJ. How's it looking down your way?
It's raining a lot. I mean, it's like thunderstorms for the past 4 days, which my flowers on my porch are loving, but the humidity is stacking up. Other than that, I'm ready. I'm ready for spring and summer.
Outstanding. Well, I'm very glad that you're here. And I'm also very glad, I'm thrilled, I'm delighted to welcome our very first guest to the podcast, because I don't count TJ reading a couple of weeks ago as guest because you're part of the furniture. So our very first guest, bringing a professionalism that I could hardly have dreamed of when we started this all these weeks ago. Meg Logue is a musician, an educator, an arranger, an all-round musical phenomenon, and she joins us this week. Welcome, Meg.
Wow. Hi. Thanks.
You feel loved?
I feel loved. That's a lot.
Do you feel the pressure yet?
The recording's done. I can't fix it now.
Ah, yes. Okay. With a peek behind the curtain that we're not recording this one live, or not, Meg's not lining up her piano to play this track right on the spot.
Did I wreck it?
No. So as our very first guest on the podcast, we're going to test out our guest questions. So you're going to be our guinea pig. Is that okay?
Cool. Yeah.
Excellent. So tell me in as much detail as you can. Tell me, what is your relationship with James Joyce and Finnegans Wake?
Well,
that might be the meanest first question in podcasting, right there.
Well,
You're allowed to say nil.
I don't have much of one. I mean, I'm aware of who James Joyce is.
Yeah.
I watched you read Ulysses.
Yeah.
So it can be read. I know he's Irish. I'm not a student of literature by any means whatsoever. So
what is your background?
I studied music at university and some drama. So I did not take one single literature course after I graduated high school. So,
but in addition to music, now you teach English.
Well, sometimes they ask me to teach English when there aren't enough music credits. Yeah.
But still, okay.
Yeah, it's true. It is true, but we don't get to James Joyce with the grade 9s and 10s.
I hope not.
Yeah, it's a little elevated, yeah.
We struggle with A Midsummer Night's Dream, so,
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, so...
And you have Irish blood, so so you're qualified.
Sure. I mean, that's all that's necessary, right? I like a whiskey.
Exactly.
There we
go. Perfect.
I've sung at a wake before.
There you go. Well, geez, wow.
Many, actually. Many, yeah.
Okay.
So there you go.
Excellent. No one woke up at those wakes?
No, not at any of them.
Okay.
No.
So what did you think when you first heard of this project? We started telling you about reading this thing out loud.
I wasn't totally surprised that you would want to do that, because you've talked about it before,
right? That
wanting to hear it out loud, and we were, toying around with the way to do it, whether it would like be the family sitting around, or right. this felt like there would be more accountability. So I approved.
Right. And before we got on the track tonight, we talked about how you hadn't had a chance to listen to any of the podcasts up to now, which is totally understandable. Do you think you're going to dive in, listen to any for while you're on the treadmill?
I will. I will definitely listen to at least. You said I had to listen to the introductory one, so I definitely will.
No one has to do anything.
Well, no.
In fact, from now on, whenever anyone says, which episode should I start with? I might start with this one because, Meg, you've come up with a straight up banger of a track. I'm very excited because Meg's contribution to the Wake will be the arrangement and presentation of the Ballad of Persse O'Reilly, which we talked about last week, which was written by Joyce as a slanderous attack on HCE. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about your impressions of it after we hear your version of the ballad. But tell us about your process of preparing this piece.
Okay. Well, I took a look at the music, which was just a melody. Listened to, you pointed me toward a couple of recordings.
Anthony Burgess and the Dubliners.
Yeah.
Versions.
So listened to that. I did my usual Snoopy music teacher thing where I kind of scour the internet for different arrangements just to see what other people have done with it and what chords might go with the melody that I was looking at. I do have a lot of experience singing like Celtic folk music. I did a lot of that actually at university. So I kind of knew what I thought would probably work. And then, so that was the music part. And then I just messed around on the piano. That's kind of, I just messed around on the piano to figure out to play it. I didn't play it the same twice ever. But you said that was okay.
Yeah.
And reflective of the process of the cold read.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so thank you for that validation. So not my normal getting it like super precise, like in classical music. And then with the words, it was really interesting because I sing at church on occasion. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with like a Catholic psalm, but part of it is you get this big text and just a little bit of melody, and you have to mark up the text to know where you're going to move on the melody. And so that's part of the process before I sing as part of the service. So that's basically what I did with this, because there's way too much text for very little melody. So I had to go through and sort of figure out where it was going to move and then practice fitting it in. I don't know if that makes sense. So ran through it a few times, and I think I asked you for pronunciation on a couple things, but a lot of other things I just sort of went for it. I'm used to singing in lots of different languages, so I wasn't scared if I didn't know what the word was. You know what I mean?
I mean, a lot of these words, I was like, this is okay, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, like that looks German. Well, that looks French. That could be Latin. That could be Sanskrit. I'm just going to have a go and something will come out probably.
But so listen out for the verse that starts with "Where from roars Poolbeg." It's a feat of majestic twinkle toes through the lyrics. It's just this incredible.
Thanks. I thought you guys did I mess that one up?
Oh no, it's my favorite. It makes me laugh every time. It's my favorite. It's
Alrighty.
You really you sort of hit your stride, and
I can't even remember.
It's
now.
the most complicated one. And yeah, you'll hear it when you get there. It's my favorite. So so it's interesting because the lyrics. It's funny because having heard you sing it 6 or 7 times in this prep, after a little while, the meaning becomes very clear. This is the song is the big slander on HCE and all the rumours of his indiscretions as they fly around Dublin, the things that he might have been doing and all the different ways. And we're not going to offer a lot of analysis here, but there is information. There's a good site called james-joyce-music.com with a lot of information about a lot of the songs that are influenced by Ulysses and Finnegans Wake and things like that, including the recordings performed by the writer Anthony Burgess and a version named Humpty Dumpty by the Dubliners. But yeah, it's really quite interesting. We didn't know this, but Joyce was a bit of a composer. He was obviously a novelist first, but then was also a poet, and then used to write a bit of music here and there. So when we're getting ready to listen to this track, so as always, if you're following along, our content is from the Penguin Modern Classics editions of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. So today our song comes from chapter 1-2, our shortest read yet, with a musical staff and 14 verses, coming in at 4 pages, spanning pages 44 to 47 in this edition. So this is part of a segment it's entitled The Humphreyad 1, an academic study about the rumour mill obsessed with HCE by the Oxford World's Classic edition of 2012, which also includes brief summaries of what is happening in each subsection, which we will address at the end of the song. So let's listen to the song, and then we'll be back to talk about what we've heard. And without further ado, this is Finnegans Wake. Ardite, Arditi, music cue, the Ballad of Persse O'Reilly.
Have you heard of one Humpty Dumpty? How he fell with a roll and a rumble, and curled up like Lord Olofa Crumple by the butt of the magazine wall, hump helmet and all. He was one time our king of the castle. Now he's kicked about like a rotten old parsnip, and from Green Street he'll be sent by order of his worship to the penal jail of Mountjoy, to the jail of Mountjoy. Jail him and joy. He was father of all schemes for to bother us, slow coaches and immaculate contraceptives for the populace, mare's milk for the sick, 7 dry Sundays a week, open air love and religious reform, hideous in form. Why says you couldn't he manage it? I'll go bail my fine dairyman darling, like the bumping bull of the Cassidys. All your butter is in your horns, his butter is in his horns, butter his horns.
Hurrah there, hosty, frosty hosty, change that shirt on ye. Rhyme the Ran, the king of all Rans, Balbaccio, Balbuccio.
We had cha-cha chops, chairs, chewing gum, the chicken pox and china chambers, universally provided by the soft-soaping salesman. Small wonder he'll cheat era when our local lads nicknamed him, when Shimpton first took to the floor with his bucket shop store down Bargain Way galore. So snug he was in his hotel premises sumptuous, but soon we'll bonfire all his trash tricks and trumpery, and 'tis short till Sheriff Clancy'll be winding up his unlimited company with a bailiff's bomb at the door, bim bam at the door, then he'll burn no more. Sweet bad luck on the waves washed to our island, the hooker of that hammer-fast Viking, and Gall's curse on the day when Eblana Bay saw his black and tan man-o'-war, on the harbor bar. Where from roars Poolbeg, cooking happens, he bawls, Donnymore, Scrampertle, Wick, and Wipin Fampney, Fingal, Mac, Oscar, One Zine, Barjars, Boniface, Thoxmine, Gamelhol, Norvigikers, Moniker, Ogazayar, and Gamelhor, Norvikers, Cod, a Norwegian camel, Old Cod, he is begod.
Lifted, hosty, lifted ye devil ye, up with the Ran, the rhyming Ran.
It was during some freshwater garden pumping, or according to the nursing mirror while admiring the monkeys, that our heavyweight heathen Humphrey made bold a maid to woo. Woo-hoo, what'll she do? The general lost her maiden Lou.
He ought to blush for himself, the old hay-headed philosopher, for to go and shove himself that way on top of her. Begob, he's the crux of the catalogue of our antediluvial zoo. Messieurs Billing and Coo, Noah's Lark's good as new. He was jolting by Wellington's monument, oratorious hippopotamans, when some bugger let down the back trap of the omnibus, and he caught his death of Fusiliers with his rent in his rears. Give him 6 years. 'Tis sore pity for his innocent poor children, but look out for his missus legitimate. When that fru gets a grip of old earwicker, won't there be earwigs on the green, big earwigs on the green, the largest ever you seen.
Sophocles, Shakespeare, Pseudo Danto, Anonym Moses.
Then we'll have a free trade Gales band and mass meeting for to sod him the brave son of Scandinavary. And we'll bury him down in Oxman's town, along with the devil and the Danes, with the deaf and dumb Danes and all their remains. And not all the king's men nor his horses will resurrect his corpus, for there's no true spell in Connacht or hell that's able to raise a cane.
All right. That was the Ballad of Persse O'Reilly from chapter
I loved it.
So good. So much fun. That's from chapter 1-2 of Finnegans Wake, arranged and performed by a dear friend of the podcast, musician and educator Meg Logue. TJ, what were your impressions of that performance?
Well, like I said last episode, this is like the original diss track. So I'm listening for all the insults. And there was one part where wherefore roars Poolbeg, like that whole section. I just imagine some really drunk dude just like, my turn to sing a verse. It's so much fun.
On scene.
It's funny because when we started this, in episode 0, they talked about, there's a laugh on every page, and we're like, there's no way. And now I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty great. There's
something in there for him, according to the nursing mirror, while admiring the monkeys. He was
out of nowhere.
He perpetuated this crime in the park while at the zoo. There's so much interesting stuff in there, and everyone's pulling together all these rumors and piling on poor old HCE when he's not there to defend himself. So, what was how was it for you listening back, Meg? Obviously, like we said when you finished recording, you said, "Oh, there's a bit rough and I missed some words. Is that a problem?" And I said, "No, that's great. That's exactly So there are certain things in there. Is there anything that you noticed?
About the text?
Yeah, or about listening back.
Sorry, I'm far away. It's difficult to listen to yourself when you're looking, and I was looking at the text while listening, so caught all the I would have pronounced that, I missed that letter, or I should have emphasized the word on this part, and that would have been a more musical phrase or prettier or whatever. Not that pretty is the goal exactly, but a nice turn of phrase is a goal. So hitting the emphasis in the right spot. So,
although if you had to total up the number of minutes that you spent total on preparing this and performing this, how many minutes? Would you think it would be over an hour? I don't think it was over an hour. I think you moved pretty quickly. It was very impressive, and that's what we came out with.
Yes.
And these drunk people in the bar would just be like, "Who can play? Let's go."
Yeah. So, in the spirit of it, I think that it's probably pretty right. it's not really in the right spot for my voice either. Like I think like it sits right at the bottom for me, but again, at the bar, who cares?
Yeah, I think this is the first time. This is the first time I've ever heard it sung beautifully. It's nearly always sung by a gravelly voiced old Irishman.
Yeah,
which isn't surely the intention, but I think our version is better. I think it's fun. I think it's really fun.
it was pretty fun to do. Like to record it and to sort of play around.
Were there challenges singing something like this? I was impressed with the way that you negotiated the language. That Poolbeg stanza there. I thought that was going to be the challenge for you, the Norwegians and all of those guys, and you sailed through those. So you were saying that the difference between this and singing German opera is not much different.
Well, when you're singing in a different language, you don't get too caught up on meaning, right? And then you kind of learn the rules. Obviously, there's different rules in Italian than there are in German. And I've sung a little bit in Gaelic, and like none of the rules apply in Gaelic at all. Like none of them. I've had to, like, anytime I've sung in Gaelic, it's been totally like phonetic, because yes, totally not the same rules at all. So I guess I'm used to just sort of I guess it was easy enough to make it up.
Yeah,
basically
it sounds like you fit
something that sounded like something that sort of made sense,
which is why you fit into this podcast exactly, because we spend a lot of time on phonetics in this podcast. There's a little bit more meaning that pops out than maybe it does in German opera, but
you're right. Like the first time I sang it through, because I think the first time I sang it through, I just like really just had the music in front of me and I did a proper like sight read sing, right? And I had no idea what it was about. And you're right. But the seventh time through, I was like, I don't really know, but I kind of have a sense of what I am now singing about by the time I got to the end. So that was good.
That's the general take that I get from this novel in general. I'm like, what's happening? This is what's happening. Okay, what's happening again? Happening.
We'll have to put the MP3 up on Apple Music, so people can put it on their playlists.
It's impressionist, right?
Yeah,
it's just sort of like you get an impression of what's going on, and it's evocative, right? The words, the painting, or whatever, but you don't. It's not entirely clear.
It's interesting because the feeling I got from it when I first heard it was it felt almost medieval in its in its structure. Particularly with because you arranged that music because the one you were saying that the one line of music that's in the text in the book is nonsense. It's full of weird sharps that shouldn't be in there, and it's not really
like flipping keys or like I'm gonna say it's maybe even in a mode, not in a major or a minor key. And I if I thought very hard about it, I could work it out, but not right now.
But it doesn't really look like it's written for an instrument. It looks like it's just for the voice, probably, the way that it's laid out. So the fact that you arranged that music and then sort of brought it into something that felt like it was coming from the court of Henry VIII, I thought that was very interesting.
Well, I feel like that's how a lot of the old Irish like dirges, like the folk songs sound, though, like with that sort of, I don't know. Yeah. Does all the Irish stuff sound medieval?
Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to get a.
It gave me Ren Fair vibes, but Ren Fair mixes like everything into just one. They're like, sure, this is old, but it sounded Ren Fair like a street busker, insulting the nobility as they walk by or something like that. I usually go through and I like highlights. I was like, open air love and religious reform. That's really good line. And then just the cycle of like, oh yeah, Humpty Dumpty, and then at the end coming back to the king's men and his horses. It's like, okay, it's really smart. It's just smart.
And more falls. Obviously, Humpty Dumpty has a great fall. Yeah. And so Finnegans falling, and all the metaphor. But then, like you say, the original diss track. So we've had, from the Oxford World's Classic Summary of the section, just as a reminder, we mentioned it last week, the ballads part of the section that runs from 38.9 to 47, which is the gossip passing from the cad's wife to a priest, to a lay teacher, to a tipster with apnea, to three down and outs who treated to many drinks compose and sing the slanderous Ballad of Persse O'Reilly to working class Dublin. So this is coming from a place where these rumours have been building and building and building, coming down the line, and then these three drunks, as they get drunker and drunker and drunker, are singing this ballad out to working class Dublin. And so you really get all of those tones in there, both the slander, but then also the drinking and then the imagery that he's going for.
Whatever Poolbeg is having, I'll have some because he's there. You know? And I will say, Meg, it was really impressive, especially listening to that verse, because it did the thing that I think even really good rap artists do, where you're like, there's no way those words are going to fit in those bars. And you're like, oh, you fit it. This is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, making it look easy.
Yeah. Breath control.
Yeah.
Don't run out of air. Note to self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this is a special episode. Meg has committed to, she's going to give us a new recording of Persse O'Reilly, which is going to become our outro theme for the next episode. So that's exciting too. So we'll be able to keep Persse O'Reilly with us in a non-vocalized version for the rest of the run of the podcast. So
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No worries. Easy.
Yeah. So anything else that we notice from this is obviously a shorter episode. The purists out there are wiping their brows with relief that
Let
they
them
get
wipe.
I will say, not naming any names yet, but I met a friend of mine yesterday who is a purist who heard about this podcast, and he's going to be guesting with us in a couple of weeks. And we are gearing up to have our first purist on the podcast.
I'm scared, Toby. I'm scared.
Yeah. We're going to be fine. We're experts now. We're 47 pages in. We're nearly 7.5% of the way through, so we're going to be fine. Yeah, by the time we get there, he'll be asking us questions.
He'll be like, I don't know, man.
That is all the time we have for Wake this week. If you're here for the music, you might be disappointed next week because this was an outlier episode. But unfortunately, Joyce only wrote one ballad into the Wake so far. But if he comes up with another one, then Meg will come back again to do that one too, I'm sure. I've been Toby Malone, joined by TJ Young, and I would like to once again offer our massive thanks to Meg Logue for fitting us into a busy schedule. So thank you, Meg. Thank you for being here. We owe you big time, bringing a little bit of class to the boys' club that is Wake.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes.
Because that's TJ and I, paragons of toxic masculinity. Join us next week for Chapter 1-3, at least the first half of it, with the exciting title of The Humphreyad 2, Continuing Study of Other Outrages Against HCE. Looking forward to seeing you there, my fellow completists. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Persse O'Reilly, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.